Bank that vote. Bank that vote in case your kid gets sick, you have car trouble, you have a work issue come up. Bank that vote. But also for the candidates that you care about, that you plan on voting for, every day that you don't vote, they're still trying to reach you. They're still spending resources to try to call you, to door knock you, to mail you, to digital ad you. By you holding out, you're asking your candidate to spend more time chasing you instead of going on to that next person that you want them to be contacting. So it's a win for you, and it's a win for the candidate of your choice for you to get that vote in early.
Progress Texas Executive Director Kathleen Thompson from last Friday's In Progress pod as early voting begins in the primary. More on that is coming up. It's Tuesday, February 17th, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch. Rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Man, you take one Monday off and things just go bonkers. First, a direct Texas connection to open and continued political manipulation of legacy media by the Trump administration, coming from Forbes here. On last night's Late Show, host Stephen Colbert revealed that his show's parent network, CBS, had blocked the airing of his interview with Texas Democratic Senate candidate James Talarico due to the FCC's recent enforcement of the so-called equal time mandate. We've talked about this. Colbert told his audience that network lawyers explicitly forbade the interview and even instructed him not to mention the restriction on air, a directive he, of course, immediately and duly defied. Colbert explained that while talk shows traditionally enjoy an exception to the rule, requiring equal airtime for opposing candidates, FCC Chair Brendan Carr had recently issued a notice suggesting that partisan talk shows should no longer qualify for that protection. Colbert then directly addressed Carr, accusing the Trump-appointed FCC chair of being motivated by his own partisan agenda and attempting to silence critics of the Trump administration. Colbert noted that the FCC has already launched an investigation into the show The View for hosting Talarico and mocked Carr's suggestion that hosts who dislike the rule should move to cable or podcasts, pointing out the irony of a broadcast regulator encouraging talent to leave the medium. Colbert further criticized CBS for unilaterally enforcing this rule before it's even been officially changed, sarcastically but accurately attributing the network's caution to purely financial reasons. To bypass the network's restriction, Colbert announced that he would conduct the Talarico interview anyway and post it exclusively to the Late Show's YouTube page, which he did, and that link is in our show notes this morning. And all of this happening on President's Day, for Pete's sake. Progress Texas Executive Director Kathleen Thompson, who we heard at the top there, is up in arms about this earlier than usual this morning. She says, quote, Barry Weiss and the dumbasses at CBS apparently didn't learn their lesson about not airing a CBS 60 Minutes story that was aired in Canada and seen by more people in America than who wouldn't if they had in the first place, unquote. And I'll go back to my helpful solution. I think Stephen Colbert and The View and Jon Stewart and Jimmy Kimmel and Seth Meyers and Rachel Maddow and Lawrence O'Donnell should roll out the red carpet for the likes of Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem and J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi and Elon Musk and Tulsi Gabbard and Don Jr. and Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton and hell, Donald Trump himself. That, my friends, would be must-see TV. Then over the same President's Day weekend, the leading Republican candidate for Texas comptroller fell face first into the Jeffrey Epstein mess. You've heard by now that very quietly, perennial Texas GOP loser Don Huffines bought Jeffrey Epstein's infamous Zorro Ranch in New Mexico in Santa Fe County. And by the way, before you get into your head the typical dry, hardscrabble, cactusy property you might envision over next door in the land of enchantment, note that this property includes a 26,700 square foot hilltop luxury mansion and is the site where Epstein abused an untold number of victims over a 26-year period. This property was put up for sale for $27.5 million in the summer of 2021, 2 years after Epstein's death, and was sold in 2023 to an entity called San Rafael Ranch, LLC, which the newspaper The Santa Fe New Mexican traced via records back to Huffines, whose campaign spokesperson Alan Blakemore tells The Independent, quote, the owners have never been approached by local, state, or federal law enforcement requesting access to the San Rafael Ranch. If and when they do, of course, they will be granted full and complete cooperation, unquote. So let's digest that. A notorious mansion known to have been the site of protracted and egregious sexual crimes committed by the modern era's most notorious and convicted sexual predator has not been searched by authorities over the years that the appalling scope of his crimes have become known. Let's also envision Don Huffines and his family members and guests very quietly over the last 3 years, whining and dining and chilling and swimming and doing whatever within the walls and halls where unspeakable suffering was inflicted. These are people who could buy any property they damn well please, by the way. In a conveniently timed announcement from Huffines as the story broke, there's now talk of setting up a Christian retreat there. Don says the new entrance will bear the slogan, quote, "Blessed are those who come in the name of the Lord," unquote. Most recent development is the announcement of a bipartisan panel of New Mexico state representatives formed by unanimous consent of that entire body to investigate what happened at Zorro Ranch during Epstein's ownership and to determine if the state government of New Mexico has failed to properly secure accountability in the matter. And let me throw in just one more bit here, perhaps a bit conspiratorial. To me, it's curious that just before Don Huffines' involvement in all of this was announced, that weird airspace shutdown over El Paso happened, along with a nearby section of southern New Mexico adjoining the Mexican border. From 11:30 last Tuesday night through 8:30 the following morning, mostly under cover of darkness, the federal government took full control of the airspace over an international border almost directly south of Zorro Ranch for about 9 hours. And this news dropped 3 days later. I'm just asking questions here. As voting time arrives, here's one that caught my attention on Friday I wanted to get to that made me think of our friends at the Dallas Eviction Advocacy Center who worked hard during the last legislative session to limit efforts by your landlord to make it easier to kick you out of your house. As the Lone Star Project puts it, Dallas County Justice of the Peace Margaret O'Brien appears to have failed to administer eviction cases fairly, as evidenced by a disproportionately high ruling rate in favor of landlords in her court, even when tenants have legal representation. The Lone Star Project suggests a judicial bias on O'Brien's part that has established a pattern of unlawfully displacing residents. They highlight in particular a 2022 case involving a mother in labor upon whom Judge O'Brien issued a default eviction judgment because she missed a court appearance while she was giving birth, a case in which an advocate revealed that the required court notice was never actually sent to this expectant mother, and despite frankly shocking evidence that O'Brien's chief clerk forged documentation to cover up all of this, which led to a grand jury indictment, O'Brien has refused to conduct an internal investigation, has remained defiant, and has offered no apology. We learned that the advocate mentioned here is Dallas attorney and Progress Texas supporter Mark Melton of the Dallas Eviction Advocacy Center, who told me on Friday of the Lone Star Project report, quote, "This is all factually accurate. O'Brien does have the highest eviction rate in the county. Among her peer courts, the median rate is only 38%, while hers sits at almost 60%. I have long complained about bias in that court. I deposed her court clerks under oath. There is no doubt in my mind that she forged that notice to cover up an unlawful eviction," unquote. And what a way to hit the first day of early voting, y'all, in the 2026 primary. That's today. As you're hearing this, the polls have opened, and today also happens to be Fat Tuesday. We're celebrating both of those happy occasions this evening from 5 to 7 at a highly appropriate location near downtown Austin. And if you're a sustaining monthly supporter, please check your email for the exact location. Come find us this evening between 5 and 7, and your first beer will be on us. If you're not a sustaining monthly supporter, well, this would be a perfect time to become one, like Elizabeth Conger, Valerie Ordonez, and Elizabeth McNair all have. Join them and us at progresstexas.org/donate right now. Early voting continues through Friday, February 27th, and Election Day in the primary is Tuesday, March 3rd, with runoffs likely beyond that. See the show notes for a ballot form from the Texas Tribune that works with your home address to show who's running in the primary in which you choose to vote. And all about voting in Texas can be found at govotetexas.org. Since the new year, Progress Texas has devoted coverage and advocacy to the issues you're passionate about, and like no other outlet, has given you direct access to the candidates in the biggest races in the country, Texas legislative, statewide, and federal elections. Join us as we work to raise $14,000 this February. Whether you give $35, $100, or $500, any contribution brings us closer to our goal and ensures Progress Texas can advance our Project 2026 plans, which include developing Spanish media and expanding our radio operations. All the details at progresstexas.org. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is an independent, nonprofit, rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day and a great week, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning.